Detective Ramirez and Officer Lee had seen countless emergencies in their careers, but nothing could prepare them for the 911 call that would change everything. By the time they arrived at the quiet suburban street, the scene inside the house was already rewriting the rules of fear, and what they discovered would haunt them for the rest of their lives. It started like any other night, the city humming with its usual rhythm. Streetlights flickered intermittently as cars moved along wet pavement, their tires splashing shallow puddles in the dim glow. Most of the city's residents were either tucked away in their homes or rushing to finish late-night errands, unaware of the storm about to disrupt the ordinary. At the police dispatch center, the room was quiet, filled only with the soft tapping of keyboards and the occasional murmur of officers speaking into their headsets. Calls were flowing in steadily, ranging from minor traffic incidents to small domestic disputes, nothing out of the ordinary. Then, without warning, a voice cut through the calm voice that made the room fall silent instantly. The call was frantic, barely coherent. The words were jumbled, desperate, spoken in gasps and interrupted by long pauses of static. There was an intensity in the tone that set the officers on edge immediately. It wasn't just fear. There was raw panic, a sense that something unimaginable was happening at that moment. Dispatchers tried to keep the caller on the line, their voices calm, urging clarity, but the voice broke apart under the weight of terror. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the call ended. Silence followed, leaving only a faint hiss of static and the echo of what had been said. Officers were dispatched to the address immediately, their cars racing through the dark streets. Their radios crackled with updates, but even as they approached, none of them could shake the unease building in the pit of their stomachs. They arrived to find a quiet street, deceptively ordinary, lined with houses that seemed untouched by the night's disturbance. The house in question, however, told a very different story. The front door was slightly ajar, its frames scuffed as though someone had forced their way in. The windows reflected the flashing lights of the patrol cars, and inside, a shadowy chaos awaited. The scene was disorienting. Furniture was overturned, a lamp lay shattered on the floor, and faint streaks on the walls hinted at a struggle that had occurred in haste. Objects were scattered with no clear pattern, yet the air carried a distinct feeling of intent, as if the disorder had been created with a purpose. The officers moved carefully through each room, their flashlights cutting through darkness, revealing more unsettling details: a single shoe in the hallway, a chair tipped over with precision, and a faint trail of smudges leading deeper into the house. Every step seemed to intensify the sense that the place itself was hiding secrets, that it had witnessed something the world wasn't meant to see. It wasn't just the scene itself that unnerved them, it was the absence of people. There were no signs of a struggle continuing, no sounds of life beyond the occasional creak of the floorboards. Yet the energy in the rooms was palpable, charged with the remnants of fear and urgency. The officers instinctively knew this wasn't a simple break-in or domestic dispute, this was something more. The 911 call had been a window into a moment of unimaginable terror, and now, standing in the aftermath, the officers felt the weight of its implications. From the first frantic words to the abrupt silence, everything about the call lingered, leaving an imprint that would haunt them far beyond that night. Once the initial shock of the scene began to fade, investigators started methodically examining the house. Every detail mattered, no matter how small, because in cases like this, even the tiniest clue could unravel the entire mystery. The officers carefully documented everything: the way the furniture had been disturbed, the faint smudges on the walls, and the broken items that littered the floor. At first glance, it seemed chaotic, almost random, but the more they observed, the more it became clear that there was an underlying pattern. Someone had been deliberate in their actions, and the house seemed to be trying to tell a story, though in fragments that were hard to piece together. Among the scattered debris, they found objects that stood out from the mess. A single, worn shoe lay near the staircase, oddly placed as if it had been dropped during a hurried escape or struggle. Nearby, a shattered phone rested face down on the hardwood floor, its screen cracked but still faintly glowing from its last notifications. Most unsettling of all was a small note, written hastily in a shaky hand. The words were cryptic, seemingly nonsensical, but the tone was unmistakably urgent. It hinted at fear, confusion, and perhaps even an attempt to communicate something before it was too late. The investigators photographed the note carefully, knowing that even a single word could hold a crucial lead. Neighbors were questioned next, and at first, their statements offered little clarity. Most insisted they hadn't seen or heard anything unusual. The street was described as quiet, with few disturbances in the past, and yet the officers could sense that something had been hidden from them. Small inconsistencies in accounts began to emerge. One neighbor mentioned seeing shadows in the windows late at night. Another remembered hearing faint, hurried footsteps, though neither thought to report it at the time. Piecing these fragments together revealed a subtle, unsettling truth. The events in the house were not isolated, and someone had been moving through the neighborhood undetected. Further examination of the house revealed signs that it had been prepared for something or someone. Drawers had been riffled through carefully, but nothing of obvious value had been taken. It was as if the intruder's goal was not material gain but control, manipulation, or intimidation. The investigators began to notice patterns in the placement of objects, the angles at which furniture had been overturned, and even the choice of what had been left untouched. It became clear that the chaos had meaning, a language of its own that only someone with knowledge of the house or its occupants could understand. As the night deepened, the officers reviewed previous reports tied to the address. Small disturbances, previously dismissed as minor domestic issues, now appeared connected. Police had been called before for noise complaints, odd behavior, and fleeting disputes, none of which seemed serious at the time. But now, in the context of the current scene, these incidents painted a larger picture. The house had a history, and the events of that night were part of a longer, darker pattern. The investigators began to realize that what had initially appeared to be a single terrifying incident was actually the climax of a story that had been quietly unfolding for months, perhaps even years. The weight of that realization settled heavily on everyone involved. The house held its secrets tightly, but it was slowly revealing its truths, one unsettling clue at a time. As investigators dug deeper, a sense of unease began to grow. The neighborhood, once thought quiet and familiar, now felt foreign and secretive. Streets that had seemed ordinary now held hidden patterns, subtle movements that drew attention once one began to look closely. Neighbors who had once been friendly now appeared guarded, glancing over their shoulders or speaking in cautious tones. Every casual interaction, every seemingly mundane detail was examined for hidden meaning. The officers couldn't ignore the nagging thought that someone among them knew more than they were letting on, and that the danger might be closer than anyone had imagined. The more the investigators looked, the more they began to notice connections between the current case and past incidents in the area. Minor disturbances, petty thefts, and disappearances that had once seemed unrelated now appeared eerily similar. There was a pattern to these events, a careful timing, a calculated placement of objects, and an unsettling attention to detail that suggested a deliberate orchestration. The officers realized that the 911 call was not an isolated incident. It was part of a larger tapestry of manipulation and fear, and the person responsible had been operating undetected for months, perhaps even years. Investigators began tracking movements in and around the neighborhood. Security camera footage, delivery logs, and witness statements were pieced together like a complex puzzle. Subtle anomalies emerged, cars that appeared too often at odd hours, strangers who seemed to vanish as quickly as they appeared, and residents whose stories did not align with one another. The officers realized that the suspect had been observing them just as closely as they were observing the neighborhood. Every investigation move seemed anticipated, every lead carefully obscured, as if the perpetrator had designed the environment to control both the victims and those seeking justice. The realization brought a heavy sense of pressure. It became clear that the officers were not merely solving a crime, they were confronting a mind that had studied patterns, human behavior, and the city itself with meticulous care. The neighborhood's outward calm was a mask, a deliberate facade meant to hide something deeply sinister. What had initially seemed like an ordinary street now appeared to be a carefully constructed stage, with the officers themselves unwittingly playing into the plans of someone who understood the limits of fear and control. With each passing day, the psychological weight of the investigation grew. Officers reviewed old files and discovered incidents that had been dismissed as minor or coincidental, each now raising more questions than answers. It became evident that the individual behind these events had been slowly escalating their actions, testing boundaries, and leaving behind clues only to be noticed later. The investigators began to understand that the 911 call had been only a glimpse of the larger picture, a moment of raw terror that hinted at the complexity and depth of what was to come. The neighborhood, once thought safe and predictable, now felt like a living puzzle, each piece hiding more than it revealed, and every step forward carried the risk of uncovering truths far more disturbing than anyone had anticipated. Weeks passed with few tangible leads, and the case seemed to hover in a tense state of uncertainty. Officers and investigators combed through every piece of evidence they had collected, reviewing security footage, witness statements, and the cryptic items left behind in the house. Yet nothing seemed to point directly to the person responsible. Each potential lead dissolved into frustration, leaving the team more determined but increasingly aware that they were dealing with someone far more methodical than they had ever encountered. The absence of witnesses and the calculated nature of the disturbances suggested a level of planning that was chilling in its precision. Then, an unexpected breakthrough emerged from the most ordinary of sources, a local delivery driver. The driver, who had been delivering packages in the neighborhood for months, mentioned noticing unusual activity at the house during late hours. Small movements, the flickering of lights behind drawn curtains, and figures that seemed to watch the street quietly from inside the property had caught the driver's attention. At first, these observations had been dismissed as routine oddities, but now they were revisited with the seriousness they deserved. Investigators realized that these subtle, seemingly insignificant details were clues to a pattern that had gone unnoticed for far too long. Following this lead, officers returned to the house, this time with a heightened sense of purpose and caution. They searched the basement, guided by the delivery driver's descriptions. Behind a false wall panel, they discovered a hidden room. The room had clearly been designed for secrecy and observation. Inside were objects that reflected careful planning, journals filled with detailed notes, maps marking locations and movements, and recordings of previous calls and incidents. Everything suggested an individual who had been meticulously documenting actions, responses, and interactions both within the house and in the surrounding neighborhood. The room itself was a physical manifestation of a mind operating with calculated intent, a place where fear and control had been orchestrated with precision. The discovery of the hidden room brought clarity to the chaos that had initially seemed random. The overturned furniture, the cryptic note, and even the scattered objects in the house now made sense as parts of a larger strategy. The individual behind the events had been deliberately leaving traces enough to intrigue, confuse, and terrify, but not enough to expose themselves immediately. The level of foresight and manipulation stunned the investigators. It became evident that the terrifying 911 call was just one small element of a much larger plan, a carefully staged moment designed to test reactions and instill lasting fear. As the team pieced together the evidence from the hidden room, the magnitude of the situation became undeniable. They were no longer just responding to a single incident. They were uncovering months of planning and observation, a web of actions that had been unfolding quietly beneath the surface. The hidden room revealed a mind that thrived on control and manipulation, someone who had studied the neighborhood, the house, and even the investigators themselves. It was a chilling reminder that terror could be calculated and that those who appeared ordinary might harbor intentions far darker than anyone could imagine. The weight of this realization pressed on the officers as they prepared to confront a person who had already demonstrated the capacity to manipulate and haunt everyone involved. The confrontation came after days of careful planning and surveillance. Investigators had pieced together enough evidence to identify the individual responsible, but even then, the apprehension carried a heavy weight. The suspect had been operating with a meticulous precision that made every step forward feel like walking a tightrope. Officers approached the house under the cover of early morning shadows, their movements deliberate and coordinated. Every precaution was taken, yet a tense silence hung in the air as though the house itself was holding its breath in anticipation. Inside, the suspect's calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the chaos they had created. The hidden room, the journals, the recordings all pointed to a mind obsessed with control and observation. Nothing about the suspect's appearance or behavior suggested guilt at first glance, yet every item in the house testified to a careful orchestration of fear. It became clear that the individual had been living within a calculated narrative, one that manipulated the environment and the people around them for months. The officers moved with caution, understanding that even a small misstep could escalate into something dangerous. As the investigation unfolded, the scope of the suspect's planning became chillingly apparent. Each 911 call, every disrupted household, had been part of a larger scheme. The individual had studied responses, observed patterns, and tested limits. The initial frantic call that had brought officers to the scene was only a single moment in a series of deliberate actions designed to provoke fear, confusion, and uncertainty. Reviewing the recordings and journals, investigators realized that every detail had been anticipated: the movements of officers, the reactions of neighbors, even the potential missteps in the investigation itself. The realization was sobering. They were dealing with a mind that had carefully orchestrated terror with an almost clinical precision. The arrest was carried out without incident, but the sense of relief was tempered by a lingering unease. For the officers, the haunting was not in the capture itself, but in the knowledge of what had occurred and what could have continued unchecked. Every time they thought of the 911 call, the memory of the frantic, broken voice returned, replaying in their minds like a fragment of static. It was a sound that carried not just fear, but the weight of manipulation, a reminder that terror could be crafted and controlled in ways that were almost invisible. Even after the case was closed, the psychological impact lingered. Officers found themselves reflecting on the subtle details they had missed, the signs that had seemed insignificant at the time but now took on ominous meaning. The neighborhood, once familiar, retained an air of tension, as if the events had left a permanent mark on the streets and homes around them. The hidden room, the journals, and the meticulous recordings were all evidence of a mind that had successfully blurred the line between ordinary life and orchestrated fear. For the officers, the 911 call became more than a case; it became a lasting shadow, a symbol of how quickly the ordinary could turn into something terrifying. The memory of that night, the fragments of the call, and the calculated chaos in the house remained with them long after the investigation ended. It was a chilling reminder that danger could hide behind familiar faces and quiet streets, and that the echoes of fear could persist long after the immediate threat was gone. The experience transformed their understanding of crime and control, leaving a haunting imprint that would never fully fade.